Look at the metal torn open on the side of this naval ship. It is 1987, the peak of the Iran-Iraq war, and the Strait of Hormuz has become one of the most dangerous bodies of water on Earth. Any vessel entering the Persian Gulf is a potential target. Now imagine being a 22-year-old Malaysian sailor, stepping up as the third navigational watch on an isolated bulk carrier exactly like this one. You are hundreds of miles from home, surrounded by black water, and perfectly exposed to the night sky. Staring out into the dark, a paralyzing thought hit him. If a missile struck his ship that night, his life would end. His ambition to become a captain before 30 would evaporate. All his plans, his routines, and his carefully constructed timeline would amount to absolutely nothing. In the grip of that sheer physical terror, he made a desperate, unscripted prayer. He asked God to let him survive the night, and he asked to finally understand the true meaning of his life. That wartime realization reveals a quiet, uncomfortable truth about civilian life. You do not need a missile locked on your position to waste your existence. The ultimate tragedy is spending decades entirely asleep on autopilot, only waking up the moment you are forced to leave. This diagram shows how modern society maps out human existence. We view life as a straight timeline. You are born, you move linearly from left to right, you achieve milestones, and eventually you hit a harsh, inescapable wall. Living inside this linear model creates a specific kind of psychological exhaustion. You spend every day chasing the next point on the line, the next promotion, the next purchase, the next weekend. Yet the space inside remains completely hollow. You are moving forward, but spiritually, you are standing still. The catalyst that broke this linear mindset for the young sailor arrived in the form of a borrowed book. A fellow crewmate handed him the Ihya Ulumuddin. This is a classical text written 900 years ago by the scholar Imam al-Ghazali, dedicated specifically to reviving the spiritual sciences of the human heart. A specific prayer in that book triggered a physical journey. Months later, his contract ended. Instead of flying home, he took a 12-hour train ride deep across rural Java, searching for a living spiritual guide. He finally arrived in Suralaya, sitting face-to-face with a teacher who would dismantle his entire view of reality. His new guide taught him that life is not a straight line at all. It is a circulum, a continuous circle. You do not originate from nothingness and march toward a void. You originate from God. You exist within His awareness, and you are in a constant state of returning to Him. There is a famous Quranic verse, Inna lillahi wa inna Illahi rajiun. From Allah we come, and to Him we return. We typically hear this recited over the deceased. The reality is much sharper. This verse is the operational mechanism of every living breath. True spiritual presence requires a shift in orientation. You realize you are actively in the process of returning to God right now, in this exact second, rather than passively waiting to hit the end of a straight line. To maintain that constant circular awareness in a loud, distracting world, the sailor, now decades older, established the Circulum Madrasah I Am. It is a practical framework designed to anchor the modern mind. The methodology relies entirely on the Hadith of Jibril. This is a well-documented historical event where the angel Gabriel appeared in human form to ask the Prophet Muhammad 3 precise questions, officially defining the 3 pillars of the Islamic religion. The I in I am is Illahi, my Lord, mapping to Iman, certainty, God is your source. A is Anta, you, corresponding to Ihsan, the practice of absolute presence. M is Maqsudi, my goal, aligning with Islam, repurposing every action to reach Him. To activate these pillars, the Madrasah utilizes a practice called Talkin. In the Nusantara region, Talkin usually refers to the last rites read over a grave. Here, the tradition reclaims its original purpose, a teacher planting the seed of divine remembrance directly into a living, beating heart. That planted seed grows through Zikr, the rhythmic, continuous repetition of God's name. The classical scholars describe the human heart as a mirror. Over time, the heavy mechanical repetition of daily life covers it in rust. Zikr is the friction that strips the rust away, allowing the heart to reflect light again. When you combine Illahi, Anta, and Maqsudi, your daily routine stops being a blind march toward a wall. Your survival mechanics dissolve into a conscious, living reflection of the divine. You can interrupt your own autopilot state today using a foundational technique called the Amalan Tiga Nafas, or the 3 breaths practice. The sequence requires total focus. On the first inhale, you silently acknowledge Illahi, recognizing God as your source. On the second breath, you center yourself in Anta, pulling your mind into absolute presence. On the final exhale, you set Maqsudi, dedicating whatever action you are about to take entirely to Him. But mental exercises have a ceiling. Reading a book about the ocean will never teach you how to swim, and watching a video about polishing a mirror will not remove the rust from your heart. To navigate the deeper waters of Zikr, you must sit with a Wakil Talkin. This is an authorized living guide. They do not just hand you a manual, they transfer the living frequency of remembrance directly from their heart to yours, carefully guiding your specific journey. The straight line is an illusion. You are already in the circle. You do not have to wait for a crisis in the dark to wake up. Step fully into the Circulum, seek out a guide, and begin the journey home.